It's okay. Let's go home. Stay close to me, all right?
What would you do if your daughter vanished in the middle of the forest as night began to fall? Go home in a panic, call for help and wait, or step alone into the darkness without a second thought? This is the story of a brave mother who, faced with the greatest fear of her life, chose to act with her heart. When her daughter disappeared on a trail during an ordinary outing, she plunged into the woods, facing cold, fear, and solitude, spending the entire night searching for the girl. No map, no signal, no guarantee she'd find anything, only the strength of love guiding her steps. But what seemed like the end was only the beginning of a deep transformation. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to follow more stories like this. We are a new channel bringing original content to YouTube, powerful stories about brave mothers. Only with your support can we grow, and we want to count on you. Thank you so much, and let's dive right into this incredible story full of unexpected twists. The sun was still high in the sky when Emma, a brave mother of 36, decided to take her 8-year-old daughter Lily for a walk in the forest around Maplewood Trail, a path known for its peaceful scenery, clear streams, and century-old trees. It was an ordinary Saturday, mild temperature, clear sky, and a gentle breeze, one of those days that seem made to immortalize good memories. Emma loved nature. Since she was little, she'd grown up camping with her parents and learning to listen to the sounds of the woods. She wanted to pass that love on, and Lily seemed to be following the same path, always with eyes alert to butterflies, asking the names of trees, and collecting dry leaves with a sparkle of enchantment in her gaze. The idea for the outing had come that morning while they were having breakfast together. Emma wanted to disconnect from her phone, the pressures of remote work, the piling bills, and the heavy routine. Lily seemed to need a break too. She'd been having nightmares lately, speaking little at school, and seemed more introspective. Emma noticed, but still couldn't quite understand what was going on. "Let's go out, just the two of us. What do you think?" she asked, smiling. Lily nodded enthusiastically. Emma packed a backpack with sandwiches, small water bottles, a little flashlight, a whistle, sunscreen, and a thin blanket, just the basics, since they planned to be back before sunset. She chose a safe, marked trail, one that families often walked. They took the car and in less than 40 minutes were parking near the entrance to Maplewood Trail. The hike started easy. The sound of branches underfoot, the fresh scent of damp vegetation, and the golden light filtered through the treetops created an almost magical setting. Emma and Lily walked hand in hand, took photos, paused to listen to birdsong, and even spotted a wild rabbit that quickly vanished into the brush. About 2 hours after they'd entered the trail, they decided to stop at a higher point for a snack. It was a clearing with a view of part of the valley. They sat on a moss-covered rock and opened the sandwiches. Lily's laughter echoed through the forest, and for a moment Emma felt everything was in perfect harmony. But peace is short-lived when it comes to brave mothers. And that's when Emma's fight began. Without warning, she turned for a moment to grab the water bottle and, when she looked back, Lily wasn't there anymore. At first, she thought her daughter had just crouched behind a bush or gone to chase a nearby butterfly. "Lily!" she called lightly. Silence. "Lily, Mommy's here, sweetheart. Come here." Nothing. Emma stood up, her heart beginning to race. She walked a few steps around the clearing, searching for her daughter's golden hair, the little floral dress she was wearing. But there was no sign at all, only the sound of leaves and a distant owl's call, even with the sky still bright. "Lily!" she shouted, now loudly. The silence that answered didn't feel natural. It was dense, heavy, as if the forest held the sound, swallowing her voice and her calm at the same time. Emma ran to the point where the trail split into two smaller paths. There were signs indicating directions, but no clue which one Lily might have taken. Despair began to rise like fire. She scanned the ground, looked for footprints, traces, anything. She tried to rationalize. Maybe Lily was playing hide and seek. Maybe she was close and just couldn't hear. But the brave mother inside her knew. She knew by instinct. She knew because the forest's silence now felt like a threat. She took the whistle from her backpack and began to blow hard, repeatedly. She waited, blew again. No answer. She tried to make a call, but there was no signal. The woods were dense and remote, like a bubble out of civilization's reach. She took a deep breath, trying not to lose it. "Think, Emma, think," she told herself. Panic was already knocking, but she couldn't let it in. Lily depended on her. Lily was somewhere out there, lost, scared, or worse. She ran one way down the trail, then came back and ran the other. She shouted, blew the whistle, cried, all at once. The afternoon moved on and the sunlight began to change tone. Shadows grew, and the wind no longer sounded so welcoming. That's when she found the first clue. A yellow ribbon tied to a low branch. It was one of Lily's hair ribbons. Emma fell to her knees, her eyes brimming with relief and despair all at once. She grabbed the ribbon, pressed it to her chest, and stood up. It was that way. It had to be. Lily had been there. Without a second thought, she entered a narrow trail covered in low vegetation and dry leaves. The trail didn't seem official. It was more like a corridor opened by animals or curious hikers, but it didn't matter. She had a goal, and fear now gave way to determination. Emma walked fast, tripping, falling, getting up. The forest felt bigger, darker, wilder. Every sound could be an animal, or Lily. Every movement made her turn her head in the hope of seeing her daughter. She no longer felt hunger, thirst, or fatigue, only an urgency burning inside. The sky went completely dark before she realized it. Night arrived suddenly, as if time had sped up. Emma turned on the small flashlight she'd brought, but the weak beam only cast more shadows. She was alone in the middle of the woods, branches cracking underfoot and the sound of crickets filling the air. But giving up was not an option. It never would be. Emma's mind alternated between images of her daughter crying alone and memories of Lily's first steps, the drawings she made with colored pencils, the goodnight kisses. Nothing, absolutely nothing, could keep her from her daughter. Not while she still had breath, legs, and a beating heart. Every 10 minutes and she stopped to call for Lily, blew the whistle, listened, prayed. She started marking branches with scratches, so she wouldn't get lost too. The idea that she might be the one to get lost didn't scare her, as long as she found her daughter. Around 2 in the morning, the flashlight began to fail. The battery showed signs it wouldn't last much longer. Emma hugged herself for a few seconds, shivering, feeling the night cold press through her light clothing. And there, among century-old trees and the vastness of darkness, she cried. She cried with the kind of pain only a brave mother knows, a silent, contained, desperate, and courageous cry. But when the crying stopped, she kept walking. Because a mother is a mother. Because a brave mother's love is the light that stays on even when all the others go out. And then, at a moment when hope was nearly gone, Emma heard it. A faint sound, almost imperceptible, coming from the left. A sob, a soft cry. She held her breath and turned toward it. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice hoarse. Silence. "Lily, Mommy's here." And then a weak, trembling voice, almost a whisper. "Mom?" Emma ran toward the sound as if flying. Every step was driven by pure instinct, unconditional love, a despair overflowing into hope. In the darkness, with the flashlight's dying glow, she saw a small figure curled between 2 rocks. "Lily!" Her daughter ran into her arms, trembling, dirty, eyes red from crying. Emma hugged her as if she would never let go again. And there, in the middle of the woods, mother and daughter reunited. 2 souls bound by a tie, stronger than any forest and timeless or distance. But that was only the first part of the fight, because the way back was still ahead. The reunion was a breath of life amid suffocating darkness. Emma's body trembled, no longer only from cold or fear, but from relief. She held Lily against her chest, as if she could fuse her into herself, as if that embrace could erase the hours of agony, the inner terror that ate away at her, and the guilt that began seeping into her thoughts like a silent fog. But the moment was short. Lily was visibly exhausted, with scratches on her arms and legs, and her face was pale. Her eyes were big and watery, but she no longer cried. It was as if her body had gone numb from so much fear. Emma stroked her daughter's hair and whispered, "I got you, baby, I got you." She repeated it like a mantra, trying to convince herself that everything would be okay. But when she looked up, she realized what her mind still refused to process. They were lost. In her desperation to find Lily, Emma had plunged deep into the forest, off the marked paths, following only fragile clues, screams, and the sound of a sob. Now with the flashlight nearly dead, the phone still without signal, and the forest growing darker and colder, she realized the worst was yet to come. She needed to get her daughter out of there. But which way? She took a deep breath, trying to think clearly. She couldn't show fear. Lily looked to her as if putting all her hope in a single person. As brave mothers do, Emma smiled tenderly, even though she was collapsing inside. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're going home. Stay close to me, okay?" Lily nodded silently, squeezing her mother's hand tightly. Emma wrapped the girl in the thin blanket she carried in the backpack and picked her up for a moment, feeling how cold she was. She started walking again. Each step was slow, careful. There were no clearings anymore, only dense vegetation, exposed roots, slippery rocks, and shrubs that scratched the skin. The flashlight flickered from time to time, and Emma whispered prayers for it to hold out a little longer. There was no moon that night, only total darkness. Time seemed to have stopped, or worse, dragged on like torture. She marked trees with a small stone to remember the way, but deep down knew she wasn't going anywhere, just trying to keep moving. About an hour later, it began to rain. First a fine drizzle, then bigger, colder, heavier drops. The forest turned even more hostile, the ground slippery, branches knocking together making eerie sounds. The flashlight finally died. Emma stopped, breathed deeply, and decided to improvise. She wrapped the flashlight with the dry part of the blanket, trying to protect it, and rummaged through the backpack for anything useful. She found the whistle, but by then, shouting felt useless. They were far from the main trail. She needed to find shelter. They walked a few more minutes until they saw a rock formation with a sort of gap beneath. A narrow space, hung but dry. It wasn't exactly safe, but at least it would shelter them from the rain. Emma led Lily there and they sat together. She wrapped her daughter in the blanket and held her tight, trying to warm her with her own body. "Mum, I'm scared," Lily murmured, finally breaking the silence. Emma held her face gently. "Me too, sweetheart, but we're together now, and I promise I won't let anything happen to you. We're getting out of this, okay?" Lily nodded, and Emma kissed her forehead, holding back tears. Hours passed there in that position. The cold was cruel, and Emma could feel her daughter's body shaking. Her own muscles were tense, her clothes soaked, and exhaustion crashed over her in waves. She fought sleep, weakness, and the fear that something might emerge from the woods, an animal maybe, or worse, the doubt that they'd be found in time. As Lily slowly fell asleep in her arms, Emma reflected on everything. She thought about the time she'd said later when Lily asked her to play, the moments she stayed on her phone during dinner, how time is cruel to parents. It flies too fast, and only when something threatens that bond do we realize how fragile everything is, and sacred. But if there was anything unshakable in her life, it was her love for that child. And she would die there if she had to, but she would not leave Lily alone again. Day began to break around 6 in the morning. The sky turned a pale gray, and mist covered the forest floor like a sheet of smoke. The rain had stopped, but the cold remained. Emma stretched her legs with difficulty, feeling every muscle protest. She stood slowly, waking Lily gently. "We have to keep walking, sweetheart," she whispered. "Are we going to find the car, Mom?" Emma hesitated. "Yes, we'll find it, I promise." They walked for hours, this time with the dim daylight helping a bit with orientation. Emma tried to keep a steady direction, following her instincts, watching where the sun appeared. She knew the main trail was to the east, but with so much vegetation it was impossible to be sure. Around 9 a.m., they heard a different sound, something like a helicopter in the distance. Emma stopped, holding her breath. The sound came again. Yes, a helicopter, getting closer. "Lily, we need to get to an open spot." Emma scanned for anything resembling a clearing. She ran with her daughter's hand in hers to a more open stretch where the canopy was less dense. She took the colorful blanket and began waving it overhead, jumping, shouting. The helicopter passed and seemed not to have seen them. Emma shouted harder with all her strength. Lily grabbed the empty bottle and struck it against a rock, trying to make noise. Desperate. A second later, the helicopter banked and came back. Emma fell to her knees. They had seen them. Minutes later, a rescue team appeared on foot, guided by aerial coordinates. Men in green uniforms with walkie-talkies ran toward them. One of them crouched in front of Emma. "Ma'am, are you okay? We've been searching all night." She could only nod, hugging Lily tightly. The girl was wrapped in a thermal blanket and examined by paramedics right there. She was dehydrated and lightly scratched, but without serious injuries. Emma was examined too, showing clear signs of mild hypothermia and extreme exhaustion. As they were led back to the main trail, Emma saw the worried faces of volunteers, firefighters, and even local residents who had joined the search. One of the men said, "Your car was still parked by the trailhead. When you didn't come back, someone called us. More than 50 people were looking for you." Emma just nodded, grateful. Words wouldn't come. Her eyes were fixed on Lily, who now slept peacefully in a rescuer's arms. For the first time in over 24 hours, the brave mother could breathe without pain in her chest. But even with the rescue completed, the story didn't end there, because the real challenge would come later. The traumas, the nightmares, rebuilding Lily's emotional safety, and above all, the weight of guilt Emma would carry silently, even after doing the impossible for her daughter. And that was exactly what made her courage even deeper. She would keep fighting, because that's what it is to be a mother, to love so fiercely that even when everything around you collapses, your soul finds a way to stand. News of the rescue spread quickly. While Emma and Lily were being taken by ambulance to the nearest small-town hospital, Riverview Medical Center, local radio stations were already relieved, announcing the end of a search that had mobilized dozens of volunteers for nearly 20 hours. For those listening from the outside, it was a good piece of news among so many sad ones of everyday life. But for Emma, it was only the beginning of a new fight. A silent, invisible fight that begins when the scare passes and everything around returns to its place, except on the inside. The first hours at the hospital were intense. Lily was rehydrated, examined, and had her scratches bandaged. She was physically fine, without serious injuries, just exhausted, scared, and in shock. Emma, as drained as she was, refused to leave her daughter's side. She slept sitting by the bed, Lily's small hand in hers, as if she still needed to make sure it was all real, that her daughter was truly there, breathing, alive. In the following days, even after being discharged, Emma realized the real challenge was still to come. Lily began having nightmares. She woke up in the middle of the night screaming, saying she was still in the forest, that she saw shadows among the trees, that she couldn't find her mom. She no longer wanted to go to her room alone, avoided leaving the house, and jumped at the slightest noise. Emma did everything to protect her, slept with her, walked her to the bathroom, left lights on, but felt it wasn't enough. At the same time, she herself was in pieces. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a strong woman, because that's what everyone said. A brave mother who faced the forest, defied the night, and saved her daughter. But inside her, there was an abyss. Guilt whispered in her ears all the time. You should have watched her better. You let her get lost. And the fear, oh, the fear. It didn't go away with dawn. It was like a fog that took over everything inside. Emma understood that if she wanted to heal her daughter, she had to start with herself. She sought help. She took Lily to a child therapist, Dr. Megan Dawson, a warm woman with a calm voice who used puppets and drawings to break the ice with kids. In the first session, Lily barely spoke. In the second, she drew huge trees with eyes. In the third, she said she'd gotten scared by a noise and ran without thinking. When she realized it, she no longer knew how to get back. Little by little, the girl began to open up. Child therapy helped bring back her sense of safety. Over time, the nightmares lessened. Fear gave way to trust. Emma followed everything closely, heart tight, but relieved to see her daughter responding. And, quietly, her own healing process began. She looked for a psychologist to deal with anxiety, the traumas that night had awakened, and the stubborn guilt. She talked about the pressure of being a single mom, the constant fear of messing up, how motherhood had transformed her life and identity. Little by little, Emma rebuilt herself from the inside. She began to understand that loving a daughter didn't mean shielding her from everything, but teaching her how to get back up after a fall. Months passed. Lily returned to school. She still had some fears, but was back to playing with friends, smiling more, sleeping better. One day she came home with a drawing in her hands. It was her and her mom holding hands under a huge tree with a heart drawn on the trunk. On top, she had written, "The Brave Tree." Emma looked at that paper like a treasure. That tree carried deep meaning. The forest transformed into a symbol of overcoming. It was no longer a scary place. Now it was the memory of a love that didn't give up. The drawing was framed and hung on the living room wall, right by the door. It was a daily reminder that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the choice to keep going even while trembling inside. The bond between Emma and Lily grew stronger than ever. They created new rituals together. Short walks in the park, Sunday breakfasts, little notes on the bathroom mirror. Screen time went down. Connection time went up. Emma discovered she didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be present, with an open heart. A year after it happened, on a Saturday morning, Lily walked into the kitchen with a question that caught Emma by surprise. "Mum, can we go to the forest again?" Emma stopped, coffee cup still in hand. Her heart beat faster. "To the forest?" "Yeah, not the same one. Another one. Just me and you." Emma felt her whole body react. Part of her wanted to say no to protect, to avoid any chance of reliving the trauma. But the other part understood. Lily wanted to face her fear, and she trusted her mom to do it with her. "All right," she answered, with a serene smile, though emotional. "Let's go. Just the two of us. And this time, stronger." The following weekend, they chose a safe reserve with well-marked and short trails called Willow Hills. Emma packed the backpack carefully. Snacks, water, a paper map, GPS, a handheld radio, first aid kit, and even a location collar for Lily. She'd leave nothing to chance. More than that, she wouldn't let fear call the shots. The walk was calm. They held hands, talked about the clouds, laughed at silly jokes. They stopped by a creek for a snack. Lily was picking little stones in the water when she found one shaped like a heart. "Look, Mom, it looks like love." Emma smiled, eyes misty. "It is love. That's exactly what it is." It was only a 2-hour walk, but for the two of them, it was much more than an outing. It was a victory, a new chapter, a symbol that scars don't have to hurt forever, that you can return to the place of pain and turn it into healing. On the way home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, head tilted to the side. Emma, at the wheel, glanced in the rearview mirror and felt her chest fill. There was no more guilt, only pride, and a quiet gratitude for having survived the darkest night of her life. Months later, Emma decided to share her story in a support group for mothers. She talked about the night in the forest, about fear, guilt, and especially about the love that kept her standing. Her account was so moving it went viral. She received messages from women everywhere saying, "I lived something similar. You gave me courage. Thank you for saying what no one dares to say." Soon after, she was invited to give a talk about motherhood and overcoming. She walked onto the stage wearing a simple necklace, the same locator Lily had used on that second hike. It was the symbol of a bond that survived the night, fear, loss, and came out even stronger. She opened the talk with a line that brought the audience to tears. "I'm not a heroine, I'm a mother, and that already takes more courage than any dark forest." At the end, she was given a standing ovation. And Lily, watching from the front row, ran to her and said, with the most beautiful smile in the world, "You found me that night, Mom. But after that, you taught me to find myself." In that moment, Emma understood something profound. What truly makes a woman a brave mother isn't what she avoids, but what she faces. It's the love that persists when everything goes dark. It's the strength born in the silence of fear that turns into light for her children. And so, that story, which began with an ordinary outing and a desperate search, turned into a journey of healing, courage, and reconnection. A reminder that even when everything seems lost, a mother's love always finds the way back. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, if you also believe in the strength of a brave mother who faces anything for love of her children, then don't leave in silence. Take this moment and subscribe to the channel. Leave your like. Share it with someone who needs inspiration today. Here, every story is a reminder that even in the darkest nights, there's a love that never goes out, and it has a name: Mother.